Welcome to the B2B Word of Mouth Marketing Podcast. We're here to help you grow your business with the one form of marketing that really works.
I'm Bill Bice, and we're here because we believe inside every small business is a big business.
This is Luke from the other podcast, and today we're going to talk about kind of our strategist COVID-19 strategies. So how are you doing today, Erin?
I'm doing great. It's so great to talk with you and to see your face. Don't see a lot of faces these days unless it's over video chat, but it's great to be talking to you, strategist to strategist, about marketing communications that we've been doing in the time of COVID-19.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, I miss everyone. Our company is remote anyways, but people do pop in from time to time, and that was nice, and we haven't had that in a while. But so it's good to catch up with you, especially as strategists. Sometimes we're a little bit more isolated in our job roles. We kind of lead our teams, and we don't necessarily have as much collaboration as we used to, and so we thought it would be really interesting to get together and for the audience, kind of talk a little bit strategist to strategist shop about what we're doing with messaging and marketing these days for our clients. Maybe we can learn something from each other, and maybe our audience can learn something as well. I kind of see this, maybe we can get a little bit more technical, a little bit more deeper into marketing, thinking about things. Hopefully it'll still be on a level where most business owners can understand. But I know that you've had a couple clients that you've had to adjust some messaging with them. I don't know a whole lot about this, but why don't you, I think you have an example for us. Why don't you jump into that? And I'll just ask questions because I'm not 100% sure about what happened, but I know it was successful.
Sure. Like many businesses right now, some of the clients that I've been working with, we've had to switch up their messaging infrastructure and how we are communicating through the various channels that we operate through the website, email marketing, LinkedIn. And this probably sounds familiar to most businesses. The COVID-19 crisis has necessitated a different way of approaching consumers. And so whether you're in B2C or B2B, we have noted that there are some ways that we can approach communications that differ from what we were doing historically. One of those is leaning really heavily towards personalization. And I don't just mean using like merged tags, right? Like I'm talking about personalized communication that first reaches out in a really kind of familiar, warm, personable way to check in with how someone's doing. It seems like because we're all kind of observing some form of shelter in place or quarantine, the lack of interaction gets kind of made up for in the way that we're communicating and putting out messaging. So that's seen a really positive response, just generally speaking. Because again, when you're not interacting or connecting with people face-to-face or in the way that you're normally accustomed to, it is kind of nice to have a moment to check in and allow for a response. And it's through that response then that additional messaging can start to happen and start to go out. And so one of the things that's been really interesting is seeing how different industry focus areas are adapting their communications to this time. One of my clients works in consumer and marketing research and insights. And so a lot of the messaging that we're putting together for them right now revolves around how other brands and how other companies should try to communicate. And I think that there's sort of this knee-jerk reaction right now to kind of go dark or tamper down messaging because it is an unprecedented time and it's difficult, I think, to try to understand like what best practice is. But that knee-jerk reaction is actually one that doesn't work. Instead of quieting down, you kind of need to maintain the same consistency and the same levels of communication that you were previously doing. You just kind of have to adapt. And so one of the things that we have been working with this particular client on is maintaining a really strong presence on LinkedIn, because what we're going to see is that the organizations and brands that continue to stay top of mind with their clients and consumers right now are going to have a long-term success, because the consumer who is interacting with those brands today is going to have better brand recall over time. Everything is very emotive right now. And for a lot of consumers, the messaging and communications that go out right now are going to be processed and stored through what's called episodic memory. And this is a memory funnel that is purely emotion based. So kind of facts, figures, and statistics don't come into play. It's a reaction and a memory trigger on how you feel, which is why we're also seeing a lot of people turning towards brands that bring them comfort. You know, Tide has seen a spike in their sales because it's a smell that, you know, reminds people of the safety or comfort of home or of, you know, previous times. So maintaining a strong and consistent brand presence is tantamount right now, and understanding what triggers are going to make your clients or consumers feel whatever normal, quote unquote, there is going to have a long-term benefit for the company.
That's really interesting. How we're linking emotions and actions together, and people are seeking comfort. I read a quote today while I was doing something for another client, and it was from Henry Ford, and I think is really poignant today, where he said stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I see advertising as part of marketing. I also see sales as a part of marketing. And something I found right now is really interesting that I think we can talk a little bit more about is right now it seems like everything is really simplified. Everyone kind of like, you know exactly what your customers want, or at least you should, right? Everyone's worried about money right now, and they want as much out of their dollar. They want as much ROI as possible. We're all thinking about the same things. And what's winning right now in marketing is really that exactly like what you're talking about is almost providing comfort to your customers, and not, to put it in simple terms, not trying to sell them right now, not pitching them on, hey, we have the best products right now, which as marketers, we're always fighting with sales teams like, hey, stop, like relax a little bit. Like, let's warm them up a little bit. Let's court the audience. And then you can ask them, for, whatever you want to ask them for. And right now it's, at least maybe it's not obvious to everyone, but as for me, what I keep telling business owners is like, you can see that perfectly right now. Marketing should always be this way, but especially right now, and they get it, where give value, be nice, touch. Like one of the things I noticed one of my LinkedIn connections was doing was he was giving out LinkedIn and Slack tips on his LinkedIn. He's a local, he's like a local organizer here. I think he runs a local chapter of 1 Million Cups or something, if I got that name right. And he just every day he's posting like tips just to help you with your Slack, help you with LinkedIn, because we know people are using these technologies more and more right now. And like, there's no pitch on there, and it's not,
Right.
hey, come, just, but he's showing up in my feed more and more, and like it's engendering goodwill in me. I'm like, that's pretty cool. He's just giving tips, and I've been reading them. Just in case, maybe I don't know how, maybe there's a button combination I don't know that'll help me, this, that, or the other. I think that's really cool. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that emotional, how you implemented that emotional like connection action thing you were talking about, which is interesting because that's kind of what the client you're talking about studies. What did you do to maybe improve that with your client when this all happened?
So it came down to tone first and foremost, right? So one of the philosophies that we adopt and leverage here at Boomtime is the idea of the challenger, right? So this is an individual who provides insights, much like the influencer that you were describing in your feed, at kind of like a freemium basis. So you're providing just enough insight and just enough like value up front that you are garnering the attention of your captive audience, but then there's sort of this imperative to act further because there are additional steps or actions that need to be taken, but they need someone to guide them through that. And that's, again, if you were thinking about it from a business perspective, where additional forces started to come into play, right? Like sales or advertising. And so right now, the challenger persona or approach needs to be combined really heavily with the relationship builder. And this is, I think, going directly back to what you were describing. Right now isn't the time to come out with the hard pitch or the hard sell. And I think you and I would both argue that you kind of always want to back away from that approach until it's near the end of the consideration cycle for a consumer or client. But now more than ever, it's important to focus on the relationship, whether it's nurturing and fostering or discovering and building, or just general retention. And so taking that approach changes the way that you would put your messaging together when it comes to voice and tone. So how do you engender a sense of trust, but also authority without being prescriptive, right? And so we really looked to again, what I talked about, the personalized message. So, and this ties into another client that we're working with that's in telecommunications and in network management, using phraseology like, we're all in a difficult situation, or, we understand your pain points because we're there too. Acknowledging that we are all working in confines or with limited resources. So making sure that your audience feels like I'm not alone in this. There are people out there who understand and want to continue to work with me where I'm at, where my company is at. So it's pulling that sense of community and camaraderie and leveraging that into, again, still providing insight-driven content, but focusing on long-term relationship building and nurturing.
It's interesting. I've done, and like, again, just to take the audience back, we don't have these kind of conversations within our strategist group all the time. So sometimes someone does something and it's completely like, I don't know what Erin's doing during the day. She doesn't know what I'm doing during the day, but it's interesting but it's really interesting because you said, oh, we're all in this together, and you use some of that language. That's also what I did with one of my clients. We completely changed it to where before it was, this, that, or the other. And we changed it. Hey, we're headed for rough times ahead, or we're in rough times right now. And like, I know it and I've been through there, and, I completely get it. And we used almost the exact kind of same phrasing, who is a salesperson actually, which is interesting. And it worked really well. It actually got him a client and then got us a client. But I think it's so interesting because people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, that works now. And then when this is over, they're going to go back to the other way to sell. And it's like, this is actually the way to sell. Like, even if you're cold calling people, what do you have to do in sales? You need to qualify them a little bit. Like, oh, can you afford my product? Can I even help you with this product? Like, is it going to benefit you? How about, we sit down for 15 minutes and then get to know each other a little bit, and then move you on to maybe an hour. Now this, that, or the other, as you move down this funnel, which is what we're saying to do, but just virtually now on LinkedIn or with your messaging, with your LinkedIn outreach. I just edited a LinkedIn follow-up message for one of my clients, and it was, very like pitchy, and it was like, let's change that to be more like, hey, did you know that businesses, the most successful businesses, do this, that, and the other. I can help you with this, that, and the other. I don't know if it'll help you, but here's some free resources. Like, go ahead. And then, if you want to get back to me, whatever, maybe we'll talk in 6 months, this, that, the other. What's interesting is you said you need to combine the challenger persona with the relationship builder. And I think what's important about that is eventually we're going to get through this, whether it takes 6, 12, 18 months. Some people are going to come out on the other side, and you're going to remember those people. Like, I'm going to remember that influencer and his tips. And there's other people on LinkedIn who are also giving out tips. People are writing articles. They're giving out free ebooks. There's this YouTube channel that I follow. They have really expensive, like, marketing courses, like really expensive, but they're basically just almost releasing them for free. They say, join our YouTube live. And then, if you need help, like, we'll give this to you for free. We want to help businesses out there. We want to help you. Here's this free information. Like, that's super cool because they're trying to help out the community. And I think it's going to be remembered down the line of who helped who and who was trying to pitch too hard, which works in good times, but even now it doesn't work. and we're talking about the challenger sale. We talk about it a lot, and it's really effective. But it's also exactly where marketing is now, and it always is. If you listen to the rest of Bill and my episodes, it comes up a lot. Like, this is what you need to do. You need to help people. You need to teach them, which is what we're trying to do here. So you said you had a telecommunication company, right? How did you change their messaging when this all went down?
Well, they're in a really unique position in that if you think about the industries or services that are going to see continued growth, they're one of them, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
with the move to working from home, FTTH, fiber to the home, is now going to be a really critical focus for telecos. And so
I wish I had that.
and so it's interesting because it isn't, again, so much that we are changing anything about their core offerings. It's entirely in how we talk about their products and services, and it is positioning them as, let us guide you through this process. Let us mentor you through what it takes to design, manage your network. Leveraging their expertise in a way that's really accessible. Through our combined years of experience doing X, we can help support you in the challenges you face implementing broadband networks in rural areas, or trying to manage your network using a GIS extension, or how you manage multiple splicing connections at one time. And so it is, again, bringing back that idea that we're trying to foster long-term relationships. We're trying to position this client as guides, as mentors, and as an entity that understands and wants to provide a helping hand. And it just so happens that they have really excellent products that will provide value for you and your organization, in perpetuity. But it's really, again, situating the team themselves as the kind of value added. You're not just getting this product and service, you're getting all of us, and we're here to support you. We're here to be your partners. We're here to ensure that you have success and that we're giving you the most value possible. And I mean, that's the challenger approach, which I think we'll continue to see it being a more and more prevalent approach. Things that we have sort of like language for, the way that we talk about it, is just going to start to become practice. Whether you know that you're using a challenger approach or not, the necessity of the times is going to, I think, facilitate those kinds of actions from small and mid-sized businesses in particular, because they have the flexibility to innovate in a way that larger companies don't necessarily have. And that's going to be a core advantage in this time.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on that challenger approach. I've read a lot of sales books, a lot of marketing books. I know a lot of marketers as well. It's interesting because the idea, we use that because that's just the vernacular that we use here at Boomtime. But if you read about a lot of successful sales or marketing professionals, they always kind of hit on this same idea of providing value, teaching, helping people out. So I'm not saying, we're not trying to sell this book. They don't sponsor the podcast, unfortunately, even though they should. So if you're sitting there like, oh, well, I like this other way, this other guy who does it, like, if it's along the same lines, like we agree, that's just what our vernacular, we use it that way. What would you say? So if someone is, if we have another strategist out there listening, not at Boomtime, but like an in-house or a business owner maybe, and maybe they don't have a whole team like Boomtime to necessarily focus on all the different areas, because there's so many things going on in marketing. Where would you suggest that they focus their attention, maybe the top 2 places? And maybe can you provide like a couple of questions on, especially on those like tonality and voice? I think a lot of people misunderstand what that is. They say, oh, it's not in my voice, but changing tonality, changing voice, putting in the proper place. Where might they look, for inconsistencies or the wrong kind of voice or the wrong kind of tonality, and how might they ask themselves a question in order to reframe it and look at it the right way?
Sure. I think that continued focus needs to be on LinkedIn. Right now, you have a really captive audience, right? We're going to see data, I think 6 months to a year from now, that's going to indicate that the time spent weekly for B2B professionals on LinkedIn has grown significantly from what it was in 2019 or even 2018. So dedicate time into your personal brand, whether that's you as an entrepreneur or a founder or as the leader of an organization, and spend time, like you described, providing insights, providing valuable information that your audience can use to help navigate this time. And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know that I have that, what does that look like? Just remember that you are your own expert in what you do. And so inventory what it is that you provide, what it is that you know to be true, and talk about that, build content around that. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then think about what the challenges are that you are facing and use that as a way to start conversations with other people in your industry, in your area. Because you want to also be potentially the person who's starting these conversations. Here's a challenge that I'm facing right now. What are you doing to address, this same issue? Are you experiencing this same issue? And if you're going to build that content out and push it through LinkedIn, you might as well create it for your email marketing. So again, continuing to stay top of mind. Don't let those lists and that captive audience that you've worked so hard to build during the time before coronavirus go stagnant. So take that content that you're creating for LinkedIn, put it into your email marketing, and continue to stay top of mind with your list. And again, you want to continue to drive people back to your website, back to your web presence. So whether on LinkedIn or in email, include a CTA that takes them back to the website where they can learn more, where they can fill out a contact form. And then questions about tonality versus voice. So ask yourself, I think a great question to ask yourself is this how I would like to be talked to in this time? Inventory what you are responding to, what brands, what communications are getting your attention and why, and then try to leverage that and mimic it in your own voice. And voice and tone, the difference is, Luke and I can have a similar tone when it comes to a marketing communication. We can both approach it with empathy, or we could be more salesy, quote unquote, but we each sound different because we each have our own voice. And so knowing the way that you would normally talk, and then imbue it with a tone that's more sensitive to the environment that we're in right now, is how I would position thinking through your communications. What do you think, Luke? I mean, how would you talk to, like you said, an individual that doesn't have like the resources that we have at Boomtime to think through their marketing communications right now?
I think what I try to tell people oftentimes, and you hit on it, is I think it's so weird that a lot of marketing professionals, a lot of sales professionals, a lot of business owners, for example, like you're not watching commercials on your television. As soon as a commercial comes on, if you're even watching television, by the way, you pull out your phone. And so you're not even looking at it. And then you get on LinkedIn. Or if we all get especially if you're on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, by the way, you're getting so much spam of, hey, this, that, and like, I got this one and it was, I don't know, 5 pages long trying to sell me real estate services. And I was like, I mean, I'm not in the market for a house right now. So maybe you should. And so it was just like this disconnect between how we want to be talked to, and then when we almost go to work and flip it and then start doing something that like we ourselves wouldn't respond to. I couldn't advise someone to run a TV commercial right now because I don't watch TV. I only watch YouTube, and I have YouTube Premium, and so I don't even see those commercials, right? And so I think there's so that right there is, what do you respond to? What emails are you, if you open up an email from If you open up an email from some vendor or some company or some list you're on, save it. Put that in, oh, hey, I like this email folder. And then think about like, why did I open this email? Or if you've joined a texting platform and someone sends you a text and you read it, or if you got a piece of direct mail, or if you see this, or if you see that, or if someone sends you a message on LinkedIn and you have a really positive experience with that, try to notice that and then like, what do I like about this? And then I think you can kind of start to use that to find your voice and what you like, and you can hold that up against what's not working for yourself and for other people. And then you can see the differences. If you're kind of an experiential learner, that's what I would suggest you do. And it's so interesting. Like with so many of my clients right now, it's all like kind of going back to what I said, like we know what everyone is worried about right now. You know, the economy's not doing super well for obvious reasons. And so everyone's worried about money and everyone's worried about making, you know, the revenue or their quarterly goals and paying their employees, this, that, the other. That being said, people still need services. People still need products. So in good times, maybe it's more about value adding. How much more stuff can I add? Right now, it's pretty easy. You either need to discount what you're selling or you need to make what you're selling worth more for the money. And the only reason I bring that up is because instead of chasing 137 different things, just focus on the one thing that's, you know, providing the most value for whatever people are paying you for, whether that's consulting, it's a product, maybe it's IT services. A lot of B2B people are client services. So what can you add on that makes what they're getting even better? So I would say focus on that, and really focus right now on your value proposition if you don't have it, but not just a feel-good value proposition. Try to add some like hard data in there, some hard numbers. The economy is going to wipe out a lot of the weaker businesses that didn't prepare right. They don't have cash. Maybe their service isn't as good. And people know that. And they're going to, like I said, they're only going to want the most value for their money. So they're going to look for the biggest, best businesses there are. And so if you can prove this, you know, we've worked with 60,000 businesses, you know, like the EOS, we have some clients who use that and we use it here. EOS is in 60,000 businesses. That is a huge number. So if you're, you know, an EOS consultant, or if you're selling EOS or being an affiliate, or if we're suggesting it to people, I'm going to bring that up. Like, hey, this isn't just some crazy idea. It's worked for 60,000 businesses. So, oh, hey, maybe I'll try that one instead of the YouTube ad I saw for some dude selling $1,000 course, right? That's the kind of things I would tell them to do. So if you wanted to put it in a step-by-step formula, you know, lead with, hey, I know we're all hurting right now. And it doesn't need to be kind of saying like, literally be like, you know, I know we're hurting right now. I'm hurting right now. That's why I'm hitting you up. But think about it in, if you were going to make a friend or make the sell in 3 months or 6 months. So if maybe you had normally have a 1 month consideration time, multiply it by 2 or 3, because you're going to have to really work hard to convince them to spend money right now, especially with the uncertainty. And so think, okay, this is going to be, you know, a 3 month now courtship. So, hey, I know things are hard. I wrote down some content like you were talking about to help out people I'm connected with on LinkedIn, to help out my list, and just give it away. Give stuff away for free. If you wrote an ebook, give it away. You know, you can get their email, right? And I think you should get their email or get them on LinkedIn somehow, but like start giving stuff away for free and plan for 3 months down the road. You're going to think, this is another almost counterintuitive thing, especially it kind of jumps back into the challenger sale where I tell people, teach people to do what you're doing so that they wouldn't have to hire you, which sounds crazy, but like it works, and like they're still probably going to hire you. And so if you can do that and give them everything that they would need to do your job to not hire you in 3 months, they'll hire you. But honestly, they might hire you in 20 days. We see it. I see it a lot. If you can do that, and it's hard to kind of get there, to put in your blood, sweat, and tears and create an ebook or create an article on LinkedIn and then just give it away for free. But if you can do that right now, it's almost like kind of going back to that, what makes you comfortable and the emotional triggers of reciprocity, where if you give them away, they're going to want to help you. Like, it's so crazy that influencer on LinkedIn just posting those, like, I have goodwill towards him. I'm like, man, if you ever ask for anything on LinkedIn, if he says, hey, can you guys check this out for me? Like, I'm probably going to do it now because I feel like, oh, he's helping us out now. Like, and that's a completely emotional thing because he hasn't posted any tips that I necessarily needed, but like, because he's doing that, it engenders that really goodwill. And so that's literally what I've been telling all my clients. Like, see, we're doing it right now. We're doing just what I said. We're trying to teach people to be good strategists and good business owners out there. And if you can just give that away and empathize, you said a word, have empathy and be really empathetic towards your potential customers in as big a way as possible, that will take you far. And then, I think it is okay still to ask for a 15-minute phone call or a 15-minute Zoom call. I think that's okay. If you're asking people to meet, definitely don't do that. Stop doing that. But you can ask for a phone call, I think, if you do the other things correctly. If you're empathizing, offering something of value, saying, hey, I know it's a tough time. I'm not going to push the issue if you can't afford what I'm doing or if it's not right for you. Talk to them. And then I think you can ask for a phone call. And I think that's okay. If they don't respond, send them the ebook in a week. Say, hey, you might want to use this or post it on your LinkedIn, however you want to do it. And so that's what I've been doing with my clients. It has worked. I think we just posted a podcast. When this comes out, it'll be, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, where actually a lot of marketing data is showing marketing is working better than ever because I think it's simplified. People who understand marketing are understanding this. And if you know the metrics that make marketing successful, now is the perfect time to be marketing because your brand dollars are actually going to go further right now because, like you said, people are pulling back their marketing. They're pulling back on their advertising, which means there's more room. It's almost like stock prices are going down. And so if you put a dollar in, it's worth more today than it was yesterday. Marketing is kind of the same thing right now. When people pull back and they stop marketing and you are marketing, your marketing goes further. And I agree. I think so many, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like I've been on LinkedIn way more lately than I have in the past. Is that the same for you?
Yes. Again, there's just a captive audience right now, right? And the situation is, the home is now the place of work and leisure. And so the business hours spill over into the personal hours and vice versa. So I think you will find that many people are spending their time doing a lot of things more than they normally would have. Viewing Facebook ads, clicking on Instagram ads, and LinkedIn is no exception. I think you're touching on a really good general theme that right now it's important to drill down, understand what it is that gave your business referrals in the first place, and put a lot of focus on that. So like you said, instead of attempting to chase everything, utilize this time to really drill down on what it is that you do and you do well, and put effort and energy behind that thing. And that is going to yield more success than what we would normally probably see in a different environment where efforts are being spread out across multiple platforms or multiple focus areas for products and services. I know that I myself have become a subscriber to wines, foods, books, whatever can be delivered to my home, I am now suddenly a patron of. So I think that if you can find ways to innovate and to drill down and to put focus and energy behind what it is that you do and do well, you will, I hesitate to use the term like weaker businesses, because I think that, especially being from a small business state like New Mexico, where we don't really have a strong corporate presence, we're 150,000 small businesses that make this state work. Whomever doesn't make it through this, it likely won't be for lack of trying, but it will likely be because efforts were put into areas that aren't going to yield the right kind of results. And I think that's what you're talking about too, is really understanding the value proposition and what it is that your audience wants and how you can get it to them.
Absolutely. And even if you're not a big business, you can have a great value proposition. One of the number one problems I see with most businesses is their value proposition isn't done correctly or in a powerful way. And honestly, bigger companies usually have a harder time with this than smaller companies or startups. It's a lot easier, I think, even you can beat a bigger company. Like Coca-Cola doesn't have a very good value proposition. They just say, hey, we're Coca-Cola. And they're like, okay, great. But if you're, a startup soda company, you could actually probably beat them on value proposition. So absolutely. It's where are you putting your effort and are you doing things in a measured and thoughtful way? I think, two things. I think you said that perfectly, and we can close on that. But you also hit on something that I think we should talk about next time, which is how do you actually innovate as a small business right now, where I think Peter Drucker says businesses have two functions, marketing and innovation. And I think we just gave out a masterclass on marketing, especially right now. And hopefully a lot of it was easier to absorb for a lot of people who maybe don't understand marketing, because the playing field is in a way simplified, because the dangers and the successes are just, they're so much simpler and easier to see because there's so the danger is so big that it kind of over-encompasses any of the other dangers that you could have. And I think I'm really obsessed with the idea about innovation, especially right now, because I think that's, you have to innovate. And I think we'll talk about that next time. But I appreciate you spending time with me, Aaron, and it was great to talk to you.
It was great to talk to you too, and I would be very excited to talk about innovation in a future episode. I think it was even Bill who once wrote an article called Innovation Led or Dead, and that is more applicable now than ever. So until then, be well. It was great talking with you, and hope to talk to you very soon.
Likewise. See you later.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the B2B Word of Mouth Marketing Podcast. Join us each Monday for new episodes and visit boomtime.com to listen to prior episodes and check out episode notes. Have a marketing question you want answered? Email us at podcast@boomtime.com or tweet us at boomtime_online and we'll answer your questions on air.